China.
China.
China. China.
China.
China.
China.
China.
China.
In a stunning turn of events that's sending shockwaves through the global tech industry, China has achieved what many thought impossible, cracking the code to produce advanced semiconductor chips that could reshape the future of computing. This isn't just another technical milestone. It's a development that threatens to upend America's iron grip on the world's most critical technology. Deep within the laboratories of Shanghai's Institute of Optics and Fine Mechanics, a team of Chinese scientists, led by Dr. Lin Nan, has accomplished something that's kept Silicon Valley executives awake at night, successfully developing an extreme ultraviolet light source platform that could revolutionize how the world's most advanced chips are made. This breakthrough is nothing short of extraordinary, says Dr. Marcus Chen, a veteran semiconductor analyst. We're talking about technology so sophisticated that until now, only one company in the world, Dutch giant ASML, could produce it, and China has just crashed that exclusive party. To understand why this matters, imagine trying to build a skyscraper with nothing but hand tools while your competitors have access to modern construction equipment. That's essentially what China has been facing in the chip-making world. The most advanced chips, which power everything from the latest iPhones to military supercomputers, require extreme ultraviolet lithography. Think of it as a highly specialized form of photography that can etch microscopic patterns onto silicon wafers with incredible precision. The stakes couldn't be higher. In 2022, the United States launched what many consider the most aggressive technology embargo in history, effectively trying to freeze China's chip industry in time. The message was clear. America would do whatever it takes to maintain its technological supremacy. But China had other plans. What we're witnessing is not just technological innovation, explains Dr. Sarah Wang, director of the Asian Technology Institute. It's a direct response to being pushed into a corner. When you cut off a nation's access to critical technology, you force them to innovate or die trying. The numbers tell a story of just how crucial this technology is. The global semiconductor industry is worth over $550 billion annually, and advanced chips are the crown jewels of this empire. ASML, the only company currently capable of producing EUV machines, sells each one for roughly $200 million. China has been their biggest customer, accounting for over 40% of global sales. But here's where things get really interesting. Just as this breakthrough was announced, another seismic shift was taking place in the industry. Huawei, China's telecommunications giant, revealed its Ascend 9.C AI chip, a processor that's sending tremors through Silicon Valley. In a shocking turn of events, this U.S. household consumption has plummeted to near $0 off NVIDIA's market value. This is a 1-2 punch that nobody saw coming, says tech industry veteran James Patterson. While the West was focused on containing China's technological advancement, they were quietly building alternatives that could potentially leapfrog existing technology. The implications are staggering. For decades, the United States has maintained its global dominance, partly through its stranglehold on advanced semiconductor technology. This arrangement allowed America to control who gets access to the most powerful computing capabilities, a crucial lever in international relations. But China's recent breakthroughs threaten to rewrite this playbook. Dr. Lin Nan's team has achieved what many thought would take another decade, developing domestic capability in extreme ultraviolet lithography. This technology is crucial for producing chips with features smaller than 7 nanometers, so tiny that dozens could fit across the width of a human hair. The real question isn't just about the technology, notes Dr. Wang. It's about what happens next. We're looking at a potential restructuring of the entire global tech supply chain. The timing couldn't be more critical. In September 2023, under intense pressure from the United States, The Dutch government imposed even stricter limitations on the lithography machines available to Chinese chipmakers. This led to a frenzied rush of orders from China as companies scrambled to secure equipment before the restrictions took effect. But rather than crippling China's technological advancement, these restrictions appear to have accelerated it. The country has poured billions into research and development, mobilizing its vast resources and talent pool toward achieving semiconductor independence. This is a watershed moment, explains Dr. Chen. We're not just talking about China catching up. We're potentially witnessing the emergence of an entirely new technological ecosystem that could operate independently of Western supply chains. The impact is already being felt beyond the semiconductor industry. Stock markets have reacted violently to these developments, with traditional chip-making giants seeing their market valuations fluctuate wildly. But more importantly, this breakthrough signals a fundamental shift in the global balance of technological power. The race is far from over. Translating laboratory success into commercial production remains a formidable challenge. But China has demonstrated time and again its ability to mobilize resources on an unprecedented scale. As one senior industry insider put it, they're not just trying to catch up anymore, they're aiming to leapfrog ahead. As tensions escalate, the repercussions of China's semiconductor breakthrough are reverberating through diplomatic channels. The Biden administration has called an emergency meeting of the National Security Council, with sources revealing heated debates about how to respond to this technological shift. "We're entering uncharted territory," says former Pentagon technology advisor Dr. Elizabeth Martinez. The U.S. strategy was built on maintaining a technological advantage. Now we're facing a scenario where that advantage could evaporate faster than anyone anticipated. The response from Beijing has been measured but unmistakably confident. In a rare statement, the Chinese Ministry of Science and Technology emphasized that technological self-reliance is a fundamental right of all nations. Meanwhile, Chinese state media has been carefully positioning this achievement as a triumph of domestic innovation rather than a challenge to Western dominance. But the implications extend far beyond just US-China relations. Japan and South Korea, both crucial players in the global semiconductor supply chain, are watching these developments with mounting concern. Japanese chip equipment maker Tokyo Electron has seen its stock price fluctuate wildly as investors grapple with the potential disruption to established market dynamics. The entire semiconductor ecosystem is built on interdependence, explains Dr. Richard Park, chief analyst at Global Tech Insights. China's breakthrough doesn't just affect American companies. It could reshape relationships between all major players in the industry. Perhaps most telling is the reaction from Taiwan, home to TSMC, the world's leading contract chip manufacturer. Industry insiders report that TSMC has accelerated its plans to expand manufacturing facilities in the United States and Japan, a move that signals growing concerns about maintaining its competitive edge. The technological implications are equally profound. China's EUV breakthrough isn't happening in isolation. It's part of a broader push toward technological self-sufficiency. In parallel developments, Chinese researchers have made significant strides in advanced packaging techniques and semiconductor materials. What we're seeing is the emergence of a parallel technology stack, notes Dr. Jennifer Wu, a semiconductor industry consultant. China isn't just replicating existing technology. They're developing alternative approaches that could potentially leapfrog current limitations. The financial markets have been quick to react. Investment in Chinese semiconductor firms has surged, with domestic venture capital pouring billions into startups working on everything from chip design to manufacturing equipment. The Shanghai Stock Exchange's semiconductor index has seen unprecedented volatility, reflecting both the opportunity and uncertainty in the sector. But perhaps the most significant impact is being felt in artificial intelligence development. With advanced chip manufacturing capabilities potentially within reach, Chinese AI firms are already planning the next generation of specialized processors. This could fundamentally alter the global AI race, where computational power has been a crucial bottleneck. The ability to design and manufacture advanced AI chips domestically would be a game changer, says Dr. Michael Chang, director of the Institute for Advanced Computing. It's not just about raw processing power. It's about the freedom to innovate without external constraints. The human cost of this technological arms race is also becoming apparent. Universities and research institutions across China are reporting a surge in semiconductor-related enrollment, while salaries for experienced chip engineers have skyrocketed. Some experts are even returning from Silicon Valley, drawn by the opportunity to be part of what many see as a historic technological shift. We're seeing a brain gain rather than a brain drain, observes Dr. Lisa Chen, who tracks talent flows in the tech sector. The combination of national pride, professional opportunity, and substantial financial incentives is creating a powerful draw. However, significant challenges remain. While China's breakthrough in EUV technology is impressive, scaling up from laboratory success to commercial production is a formidable task. Industry experts estimate it could take several years before Chinese-made EUV machines are ready for mass production. The gap between proof of concept and commercial viability is often underestimated, cautions Dr. Thomas Anderson, a manufacturing process specialist. We're talking about some of the most complex machines ever built by humans. Every component has to work perfectly, consistently, at scales measured in atoms. Yet the momentum appears unstoppable. Chinese firms are already planning massive investments in new fabrication facilities, betting on the successful commercialization of domestic EUV technology. Government support remains strong, with new policies aimed at accelerating the development of a complete semiconductor supply chain. The global industry is now facing a pivotal moment. Will China's breakthrough lead to increased competition and innovation, or will it accelerate the fragmentation of global technology markets? As one senior industry executive put it, the semiconductor industry has always been global. Now we're watching it split into competing spheres of influence. For now, the world watches as this technological drama unfolds. The next few years will likely determine whether China's bold bet on semiconductor independence pays off, and with it, the future shape of the global technology landscape. As supply chains shift and alliances reform, one thing is certain: the semiconductor industry will never be the same. Chinese companies had legally purchased $38 billion worth of supposedly banned semiconductor equipment in just 1 year. This wasn't some elaborate black market scheme. It represented nearly 40% of all revenue for the world's top chip equipment manufacturers. The US attempt to cut China off from advanced semiconductor technology hadn't just failed, it had backfired spectacularly, creating an unprecedented gold rush that handed China's tech industry an unexpected war chest. This may go down as one of the most significant strategic miscalculations in modern tech policy, notes Dr. Sarah Chen, Director of Emerging Technology Studies at Stanford. The US tried to build a digital iron curtain, but instead created a massive opportunity for China to accelerate its technological advancement. The fatal flaw was devastatingly simple: paperwork delays. While the US rushed to implement strict export controls, its crucial allies Japan and the Netherlands, home to chip giants like Tokyo Electron and ASML, took their time creating matching regulations. This year-long gap created a perfectly legal superhighway for Chinese firms. As US companies were forced to watch from the sidelines, Chinese chip manufacturers like SMIC simply shifted their massive orders to Dutch and Japanese suppliers. Think of it like closing one lane on a 3-lane highway. The traffic simply merged into the other lanes and kept flowing. This elementary oversight in global logistics allowed China's semiconductor industry to maintain full speed, while America's tech giants were forced to hit the brakes. The self-inflicted wound on US companies was severe. Industry leaders like Applied Materials and Lam Research saw their Chinese revenue streams evaporate overnight, with collective losses approaching $1 billion. These weren't just numbers on a balance sheet. This was critical R&D funding now flowing to European and Japanese competitors instead of fueling America's next technological breakthroughs. The irony is painful, explains Marcus Wong, former semiconductor industry executive. In trying to protect American technological supremacy, we've actually undermined our own innovation capacity while strengthening our international competitors. But the story gets more complex when we examine what China did with this unexpected advantage. That $38 billion influx of Western and Japanese equipment provided an undeniable shortcut, enabling companies like SMIC to achieve the seemingly impossible, producing 7-nanometer smartphone processors years ahead of schedule. However, China's strategy went far deeper than simply buying foreign tech. The country launched an aggressive multi-billion-dollar campaign focused on learning, adapting, and ultimately replacing these imported tools. They're reverse engineering the machines, training thousands of specialized engineers, and flooding domestic companies like Nora with state funding to develop indigenous alternatives. The foreign equipment serves as a bridge while China builds its own technological foundation. When the initial strategy collapsed, Washington's response was dramatic. A wholesale attack on China's telecommunications empire, the FCC launched a sweeping crackdown on giants like Huawei and ZTE, attempting to completely sever them from the US market while pressuring allies to follow suit. This wasn't just about national security, it was a desperate bid to regain control in a tech war that was slipping away. The telecom ban marked a point of no return, says Dr. James Liu, cybersecurity researcher at MIT. It transformed what was essentially a trade dispute into a full-scale technological Cold War. The global digital landscape will never be the same. This escalation forced nations worldwide to choose sides, fracturing what had been a relatively unified global tech ecosystem. We're now witnessing the emergence of the splinternet, separate, competing technology blocks forming around US and Chinese spheres of influence. This division extends far beyond semiconductors to encompass everything from 5G networks to artificial intelligence platforms. The implications of this split are staggering. Businesses increasingly face the prospect of maintaining duplicate technology stacks, separate systems, supply chains, and infrastructure for each sphere of influence. The International Monetary Fund estimates this technological divorce could eventually cost the global economy trillions of dollars. But perhaps the most unexpected consequence has been the rise of opportunistic middle powers. Countries like Vietnam, India, and Saudi Arabia have turned the tech war to their advantage, accepting massive investments from both sides while building their own domestic capabilities. They've effectively transformed the superpower struggle into their own technological gold rush. What we're seeing is the end of unipolar technological dominance, explains Dr. Elena Rodriguez, international trade expert. The future won't be dominated by either the US or China, but by a complex web of competing innovation centers. The countries that understand this new reality are the ones positioning themselves to thrive. This devastating failure of America's chip controls didn't just transfer technology, it's actively redistributing global technological power. The $38 billion leak was just the first domino in a chain reaction that's fundamentally reshaping the international order. As China acquires more advanced manufacturing capabilities, it becomes increasingly independent from US-dominated supply chains, while nations that rely on Chinese manufacturing grow more resistant to Washington's diplomatic pressure. As nations rushed to secure their technological future, an unexpected twist emerged in late 2025. China's calculated response through rare earth elements. The Chinese Ministry of Commerce unveiled sweeping export controls on these critical materials, sending shockwaves through global manufacturing. These weren't just any restrictions. They included unprecedented extraterritorial provisions that reached far beyond China's borders. This was China's checkmate move, observes Dr. Michael Chang, resource economics expert at Berkeley. By controlling the raw materials essential for everything from smartphones to electric vehicles, China demonstrated it could inflict just as much pain as US semiconductor restrictions. The timing was surgical. Just as Western manufacturers were adapting to semiconductor challenges, China restricted 5 additional rare earth elements crucial for advanced electronics and green technology. Companies worldwide suddenly faced a sobering reality. Their carefully planned manufacturing processes relied on materials they could no longer freely access. But China's strategy went beyond simple retaliation. These controls specifically targeted products made outside China that used Chinese origin materials or technologies. It was a masterclass in leveraging industrial dependency. Even companies that had moved manufacturing out of China found themselves still bound by Beijing's rules. What we're witnessing is the weaponization of industrial interdependence, notes Dr. Victoria Martinez, global supply chain analyst. China has essentially created a regulatory web that captures companies even after they've left Chinese territory. The impact rippled through global markets with stunning speed. In the Netherlands, a critical flashpoint emerged when the government seized control of Nexperia, a Chinese-owned chip manufacturer, citing national security concerns. This unprecedented intervention highlighted the growing desperation of Western nations to protect their technological sovereignty. But perhaps the most fascinating development has been the emergence of what analysts call technological arbitrage. Countries and companies exploiting the growing rifts between US and Chinese spheres of influence. Southeast Asian nations, particularly Vietnam and Malaysia, have positioned themselves as bridge builders, maintaining careful neutrality while accepting investments and technology transfers from both sides. These countries aren't just passive beneficiaries, explains Thomas Anderson, former U.S. trade negotiator. They're actively crafting policies that allow them to serve as technological intermediaries, effectively becoming the new crossroads of global innovation. The financial implications are staggering. While U.S. semiconductor giants like Applied Materials and Lam Research watch their Chinese revenue evaporate, companies in neutral territories have seen their valuations soar. The market is essentially pricing in a new reality. The ability to operate across technological boundaries has become a premium asset. Meanwhile, China's domestic semiconductor industry has achieved what many thought impossible. SMIC, China's leading chip manufacturer, isn't just surviving, it's thriving. The company has leveraged its access to Japanese and European equipment to push the boundaries of chip production, while simultaneously investing billions in developing indigenous alternatives. The U.S. strategy assumed China would collapse without American technology, says Dr. Wei Jiang, semiconductor industry analyst. Instead, it's accelerated China's drive for self-sufficiency while creating new opportunities for international collaboration outside U.S. control. The global technology landscape is now transforming at a dizzying pace. Companies face mounting pressure to maintain separate technology stacks for different markets. Software platforms are splitting into regional variants. Even cloud services are fragmenting along geopolitical lines. The cost of this technological divorce continues to mount, with some economists projecting losses exceeding $2 trillion globally. What's emerging isn't just a bifurcated world of US and Chinese technology, it's a complex mosaic of regional tech ecosystems. India is rapidly developing its own semiconductor capabilities, while Saudi Arabia pours billions into creating a new Silicon Valley in the desert. These emerging tech hubs are writing their own rules, refusing to fully align with either Washington or Beijing. The race for technological supremacy has evolved into something far more complex than a simple US-China competition. It's spawning new centers of innovation, reshaping global supply chains, and forcing a fundamental rethinking of how technology develops and spreads in a multipolar world. This new reality became crystal clear when major tech companies started reporting their quarterly earnings in late 2025. Those that had adapted to the new landscape, maintaining flexible supply chains and diplomatic relationships across technological boundaries, showed remarkable resilience. Those that remained wedded to the old model of US-centric technological development found themselves increasingly isolated. The lesson is clear. The future belongs not to those who try to control technology, but to those who can navigate its increasingly complex global currents. The Great Tech Divorce isn't creating winners and losers so much as it's giving birth to a new kind of technological ecosystem, one where power and innovation flow through multiple channels, defying any single nation's attempt to dominate the digital future. In a shocking turn of events, U.S. sanctions aimed at containing China's nuclear power industry have spectacularly backfired, launching China into a position of global dominance in one of humanity's most crucial future technologies. The stakes couldn't be higher. We're witnessing a nuclear renaissance that mirrors the intensity of the 1960s space race, but this time, China is leaving America in the dust. The numbers tell a staggering story. While the United States Department of Energy announced ambitious plans to triple nuclear capacity by 2050, China has already approved roughly 10 new reactors every year since 2022. At this blistering pace, China is set to dethrone America as the world's largest nuclear power producer by 2030, a remarkable achievement considering they broke ground on their first reactor nearly 40 years after the U.S. pioneered the technology. The story of how we got here reads like a masterclass in unintended consequences. 7 years ago, the U.S. government, citing the ever-present specter of national security risks, imposed strict sanctions on China's nuclear power sector. It's a familiar tune we've heard time and again, from TikTok to electric vehicles, even down to Chinese-made cargo cranes at American ports being labeled as potential threats. The paranoia has reached such absurd levels that some analysts have suggested Chinese kitchen air fryers might be sending cooking data back to Beijing. But here's where things get interesting, and where America's strategic miscalculation becomes clear. Nuclear energy isn't just another industry. It's a complex, interconnected global endeavor that thrives on collaboration. Yet, that's exactly what U.S. sanctions forced China to do, and the results have been remarkable. Despite being cut off from American technology and expertise, China has emerged stronger than ever. A recent industry analysis reveals that the United States now lags a stunning 15 years behind China in nuclear power development. The numbers support this analysis. Of the 10 most recent nuclear power projects to begin construction since last July, 7 belong to China. The remaining 3 are split between Russia, South Korea, and Pakistan. This dominance isn't just about quantity, it's about capability and independence. Take the recently completed Fueling 5 unit in China's southeastern Fujian province. This cutting-edge facility involved more than 5,300 domestic suppliers, with all core equipment produced in-house. More importantly, the project served as a training ground for thousands of Chinese professionals in advanced nuclear technologies, building a knowledge base that will fuel future developments. China's nuclear ascendance fits into a broader pattern of clean energy dominance that should worry Western policymakers. The country already controls 70% of the global electric vehicle market, 75% of lithium-ion battery production, 65% of wind turbine manufacturing, and an overwhelming 82% of solar panel production. Just recently, China announced plans for the world's largest hydroelectric dam through the Tibetan Mountains, a single project that will generate enough power to run the entire United Kingdom. Meanwhile, traditional nuclear powerhouses like the United States and France have seen their domestic programs stagnate. Public opposition, soaring costs, and regulatory hurdles have brought new construction to a virtual standstill. The consequences are severe. Supply chains have withered, skilled workers have left the industry, and the capability to build new plants efficiently has largely disappeared. This summer, the Director General of the World Nuclear Association visited Chinese nuclear facilities and was left speechless. I couldn't close my mouth in amazement. she reported, stunned by the advanced capabilities and industrial scale of China's program. The country has already begun exporting its expertise, with at least 15 nuclear power units and research facilities sold worldwide, including the Karachi nuclear power plant in Pakistan, China's first overseas deployment of its homegrown technology. But this remarkable success story also carries profound implications for global security and the future of international cooperation. The nuclear industry has always been inextricably linked with geopolitical power, and China's rapid ascent has sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles. These concerns have become particularly acute as nuclear arms control talks between the United States, Russia, and China have ground to a halt. The new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty is set to expire in February 2026, and efforts to bring China to the negotiating table have failed spectacularly. Yet the numbers tell a different story. China's nuclear arsenal has grown significantly, expanding from approximately 500 warheads in early 2024 to about 600 by January 2025. The implications extend far beyond military considerations. China's nuclear expertise has become a powerful tool of diplomatic influence, particularly in developing nations eager to establish their own nuclear power programs. The Karachi nuclear power plant in Pakistan serves as a prime example, a showcase of Chinese technology that has opened doors across Asia, Africa, and South America. This influence is particularly visible in the ongoing global energy transition. As nations race to decarbonize their economies, China's comprehensive command of clean energy technologies puts it in an unprecedented position of strength. Beyond nuclear power, their dominance extends across the entire spectrum of renewable energy. 70% of global electric vehicle production, 75% of lithium-ion batteries, 65% of wind turbines, and an astounding 82% of solar panels. The latest demonstration of this technological prowess came with the announcement of the world's largest hydroelectric dam project in Tibet, a single facility that will generate more electricity than all of Britain's power plants combined. The situation has become particularly concerning for traditional nuclear powers like France and the United States, where domestic programs have atrophied. This reality was driven home when a delegation of American nuclear executives visited China's Fueling 5 facility last month. What they witnessed was a level of industrial coordination that one participant described as humbling. The project, completed ahead of schedule and under budget, involved more than 5,300 domestic suppliers working in perfect synchronization, with every critical component manufactured within China's borders. The urgency of climate change adds another layer of complexity to this shifting landscape. The International Energy Agency estimates that global nuclear power capacity needs to double by 2050 to meet climate goals. With China now controlling the world's most advanced and cost-effective nuclear technology, Western nations face an uncomfortable choice: partner with Chinese manufacturers or risk missing crucial climate targets. The repercussions of this dilemma are already visible. Several European countries have quietly begun exploring partnerships with Chinese nuclear firms, despite strong opposition from Washington. As nations race to decarbonize their economies and meet critical climate targets, the uncomfortable truth becomes clear. China's dominance in nuclear technology and clean energy infrastructure has fundamentally altered the global strategic landscape. What began as an attempt to contain China's nuclear ambitions has instead created a new world order where the West must choose between geopolitical posturing and climate survival. A choice that may have already been made for them. 50% tariffs. That's the crushing blow former President Trump just dealt to dozens of nations across the globe. In what experts are calling the most aggressive trade action in modern history, no country was spared. Not Japan, not Germany, not even America's closest allies. But while the United States builds walls, China is opening doors in a way that's rapidly reshaping the global economic landscape. In a calculated countermove that stunned international observers, Beijing announced complete tariff exemptions for 53 friendly nations, primarily in Africa. The contrast couldn't be more striking: American barriers versus Chinese bridges, with billions in trade hanging in the balance. The impact was immediate and devastating. U.S. manufacturing, already struggling, plunged into its worst performance in nearly 4 years. The manufacturing index fell below 50% for 4 straight months, a clear signal of contraction in a sector that still makes up over 10% of America's economy. Meanwhile, China-Africa trade exploded to $160 billion, setting new records with a 14.4% surge that left economists scrambling to update their forecasts. To understand how we got here, we need to look back at America's industrial decline. After World War II, the United States was the undisputed manufacturing king. U.S. factories could build aircraft carriers faster than they could be sunk in battle. American assembly lines churned out more than 80% of the world's vehicles. We were, quite literally, the arsenal of democracy. Today, that industrial might has largely evaporated. U.S. civilian shipbuilding now accounts for a mere 0.1% of the global market, while China dominates with over 70%. The automotive sector tells an equally stark story. By 2024, China had decisively overtaken the United States in both production and sales, manufacturing over 30 million vehicles annually while selling 18 million in their domestic market alone. Enter Trump's aggressive tariff strategy. In early July, he launched 4 consecutive rounds of tariff notices targeting 51 countries, hiking rates from 25% to 50%. But the real bombshell dropped on July 31st, when he signed an executive order implementing uniform reciprocal tariffs on virtually every nation on Earth.